and gentlemen, welcome to our 118th episode of the Gutenberg Changelog podcast. In today's episode, we will talk about WordCamp Europe and the WordPress new AI team and Pride Photo Drive on top of Gutenberg 20.9 and 21.0 releases. I'm your host, Birgit Pauli-Haack, curator at the Gutenberg Times, a developer advocate at Automatic, and core contributor to the WordPress open source project. With me today, relatively fresh back from the sabbatical, is Anne McCarthy. Thank you, Anne. Welcome back, and I'm thrilled you're on the show. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. It is incredible to be back from sabbatical and also to be back to contributing with sponsorship, which is amazing. I was trying to do it coming back without it, and to have that change so quickly coming back from sabbatical has been so energizing, combined with Pride Month. So I can't complain. I'm just excited to get into stuff and excited to be back in this space talking about this important work.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, we're all back contributing. It will be, we still have to kind of figure that out. Yeah, I know that every team is kind of trying to get unplugged from what they were doing as part so they can contribute back. So the last time you were on the show, it was in November last year, episode 111. So much has changed for the project and for you. What are you now working on at Automatic and respectively for WordPress?
Yeah, so my job title has shifted a bit as well to align with some of the changes that have happened. I am now an architecture wrangler is the title I'm rolling with right now. And essentially the core of my job is the same. I'm looking across Automatic in the community to find shared patterns, to accelerate work, to do work, and to connect work. And so trying to make sure we're moving in the same direction in the project. So working on things like roadmaps, breaking down work, helping Five for the Future teams get into contributing and figuring out important projects they can work on, and providing support there, as well as collecting user feedback across different places and how it impacts things. So if we hear something, for example, from like an enterprise client, I recently did this a couple of weeks ago. There was a bug that came out from an enterprise client. I said, hey, who else has dealt with this? Aaron Jorban used to work in publishing. What do you think? Hey, can we get someone to work on this? What are you all seeing? What feedback are you seeing? Here's the feedback I'm seeing. So I'm still doing the same kind of work. Cool thing is now, instead of working with about 100 engineers, I'm working with about 300, about 50 different teams. So internally, there's a lot more spread, but I'm really excited because it can really help influence and move faster on some of the stuff we do in the core project. So instead of things being a bit divorced and separated, especially from customer feedback and customer needs, we can now, using Automatic spread of customers, use that to bring things that are foundational for all WordPress, because we cover so many different use cases between themes and plugins and hosting and enterprise and bloggers and all sorts of stuff. So I'm really excited to see increased collaboration there, including with the broader Five for the Future groups, and encourage everyone to get involved to share that feedback and join in the fun.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it sounds exciting. It also sounds like a lot of work, but yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's good work. It's good work because you get to kind of see things at the root, which is fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you can also kind of see it happening when it's fixed or something like that, or come together in a very creative way. Yeah. So you also are the instigator of the Pride Photo Drive. Tell us about it, Anne.
Yeah, so it's inspired by what I've seen with other photo directories. And something that I think is really near and dear to me is representation really matters. And so if you can find things that actually resonate, whether with your culture, part of your identity, or where you live, it makes it easier when you're creating websites. Like, websites are inherently quite visual. And so having really good photos that represent queer people is really awesome. And so, of course, you can't have faces in this, but the whole point of the photo drive is to inspire some folks to contribute photos, increase representation in the photo directory, and honestly, just have some fun. Like, I think there is something fun about going out and having a reason to take a photo that I think at least I enjoy as someone who takes a lot of photos. There are some cash prizes for winners, both in terms of most submitted photos, and we'll have some folks select the top photos. But honestly, like, you don't need to be a part of the LGBTQ community to participate. It's for everyone. And it's just mainly to ensure when folks go and look for something that represents them, there's a higher chance of finding high quality work for that. So I hope to see more kind of initiatives like that. And so if anyone wants to talk about doing more drives, I'm happy to share what I've done. It's been pretty simple. So more people can do this for sure.
Yeah, and we have a link to the call for photos on the lgtpdpress.com. And there are also the rules and how you actually can upload it to WordPress photo directory. And I'm really excited about that. Was last year, not this year, I missed it, but last year was at the Christopher Street Day here in Munich, and that was kind of
Oh,
wow. Yeah. I
can
didn't know how
imagine.
big that was. Yeah. And it was about 600,000 people were on the road, and there were 60,000 people in the parade. And yeah, it was
Wow.
just, yeah, it totally took over the downtown. But I probably have a few pictures made there that I can upload there. Yeah. So yeah, but it was a good point for you to say no photos or no faces or people on
Hmm.
there. Yeah. People, yes, but no faces. Yeah. So it's cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the second piece of announcement that we have is that WordPress has now an AI team. AI stands for artificial intelligence. There are three links actually that I can share with you. One is the Welcome to the Core AI Team blog post, then the announcement in the hallway hangout and recap for the first hangout. So the mission, I understood it, is to build foundational building blocks for AI integration in WordPress. And the timing is ideal because of the rapid evolution of AI. Some people at WordCamp EU said, okay, are we not a little bit late or something like that? No, you can't. Yeah, it's just the right time because now the emerging standards are there, and WordPress could be an ideal platform for AI-driven webs. There are immediate plans to integrate LMMs directly into WordPress, but there are canonical plugins that are on the roadmap and packages that are abstracting the AI provider, like AI services, and the core integration would be more like, yeah, a second step when we know that everything is kind of in place. It has the full support from WordPress leadership, including Matt and Mary, and because they recognize the importance of the open web and ensure it's central in the evolving landscape. So, what are the current initiatives? One is the AI services plugin from Felix Arns. He's a on the team are, let me put this way, the team are right now James LePage from Automatic, Felix Arns from Google, as well as Pascal Birchler from Google, and then Jeff Paul from TenUp. And all four have already some experience with AI in the space. And so there are three plugins that are being worked on. One is the AI services plugin. Felix already published that, and I'll share links in the show notes so you can look at it. And it's an abstraction layer for multiple AI providers to enable plugin authors to unify the API for AI interactions. So you need your OpenAI API key or your Claude API key or whatever you use, but then it helps you to include those services into whatever you want to do on the WordPress site. The second one is the called MCP WP. MCP means Model Context Protocol. Those are servers to enable WordPress advanced AI integration with command line or plugins. So plugins say, okay, my plugin can do that with the WordPress, yeah, and you register those services and the AI can discover those on the site. I know that Jonathan Bersinger as well as Ryan Welcher have done some live streams on that. And I can share some of that, the latest ones for on the show notes with the videos. So you can kind of follow along with that. And the last plugin is the WP Feature API. That's a plugin coming from Automatic. And it structures WordPress features for better AI integration. It's kind of pretty much, it's a standardized way how to register resources for AI. That's pretty much what I can say there. It exposes the server and client-side functionality in WordPress, so LMMs can tap into it if they have the right credentials. Yes, so that's kind of what I know about it. I read quite a bit about AI agents and MCP, and it's all still a little murky, but I think that's with any of the new services and new technologies that are kind of coming out, that we all need to figure out the smallest use case to figure it all out. Yeah. So Jamie Marsland has interviewed James LePage about the new AI team, and it's a video. It's called very clicky, very. It's called WordPress AI Fight Back Begins. So, but it's really insightful, and Jamie asked some great questions in it. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, that was such a good rundown. one of the big questions I've heard from people and I've been getting pings about is like, how do I join? How do I join? The team is creating a handbook at its early stages. You can join the core AI Slack channel. That's the best place. They're holding meetings and they're pulling together that context. So please get involved. The idea is to create a shared group of tooling that then plugin authors can reuse. It's meant to provide a shared base. So for the MCP thing, the way I've been kind of thinking of it is like rather than rewriting every AI integration from scratch, you can reuse this to have WordPress talk to LLM. So like those sorts of things is kind of the current focus to provide tooling for people who want to use AI with WordPress and including with like plugin authors and stuff like that. So that's the current perspective. And if that appeals to you, you have ideas there, you have personal experience trying to make that work, like that definitely is a great place to give feedback. And these are the early stages. So it's a great time to get involved. But yeah, that to me is the biggest takeaway. You do a great job covering everything. And I love that each
Okay.
team member has direct experience building stuff in line with that mission and value. I'm really excited about the canonical plugins and what we can do and packages that we can do to move this work forward and iterate, following a similar model as the performance team. So,
Yeah, Fabian Kagi and I
mhm,
were on a podcast with Nathan Wrigley on the WP Builds podcast, and we talked a little bit, we talked about a lot of things, but we also talked a little bit about the 10-up plugin
mhm.
Classify, especially because the latest release actually included an open source way to have LMMs on your server. So every time you ask the AI something, it doesn't go out to a central server, it stays on your site. Well, you need, of course, a server with a little bit more oomph, but yeah, for those that want to use it for their internal communications or documentation, it's definitely a great way to do this. And that's why 10up is also part of the team. And I share that also in the show notes, of course, both the podcast and the plugin. So other news, the What's New for Developer edition June 2025 is available now. Justin Tadlock collected lots of information, speaking about being back to contributing, lots
Mhm.
of information relevant to plugin authors, theme builders, and agency freelancers, the freelance developers from Core, Gutenberg, and Playground. And it's pretty much the best post to catch up on the last 2 months of updates on WordPress. So check it out. It with the link on the show notes, or you go to developer.wordpress.org/news or /blog. Either way, both of it gets you to the developer blog. All right. So now that brings us to WordCamp Europe. First time in contrast to previous WordCamps, all workshops have been recorded and all recordings have been already submitted to WordPress TV. That I
So
only
cool.
saw, that's so cool. I only saw this on smaller WordCamps like in Karlsruhe or in
Mhm.
Leipzig, yeah, where there's only one track or one or two tracks and only one day. But having 2 days with 3 tracks, everything already on WordPress TV, that's a phenomenal achievement.
Mhm.
So I have a few favorites I want to kind of suggest to you. One is, of course, the fireside chat with Mary Hubbard and Matt Mullenweg. They discussed, among other things, a lot of other things, but the WordPress Campus Connect project that's being rolled out as the official program from the WordPress Foundation. And also Mary announced a pilot project with the University of Pisa in Italy, where 5,000 students have 150 mandatory contribution hours, and those will equate to 6 credits for college. So that's going to be a phenomenal place.
I'm
Um,
so
yeah,
excited for that.
yeah, yeah. Getting the young folks involved in
Mhm.
WordPress, involved in open source, and also bringing them together with mentors on the technical fields. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. It's also more focused on the translations because that's a humanities department there. But yeah, everything helps. Anything helps. Yeah. So, and
Got my start in college, so I would have loved this. Would have been like an amazing. I was working on a WordPress multi-site in college, and if I could have had this as a chance to get to know the WordPress community rather than learning about it 4 years after, I think it would have been amazing to have this kind of opportunity and access and experience of open source early on. So I agree with you. I'm very excited about that program.
yeah. Yeah, I also had it took me about 4 years to kind of get into the community here. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's always something to do. Another great talk was by Noel Tuck. The title was WordPress Without Borders, The Fight for Digital Freedom. And he not only shared about his own charity work in the Ukraine, about rescuing dogs and bringing them back to their owners, but also about other charities who help with finding kids, providing a roof over their head for people that were bombed out, and other hardships. And he made us realize the true impact of WordPress, because all the agencies use WordPress, not all the agencies, but over 50% of them use WordPress for the website to fundraise and to connect with the communities. So, sorry, my voice kind of gave out, but that has partly to do with something like that. But I also got a gift from WordCamp Europe at home to suffer. There's another cold that I'm fighting. That's why I also sound so horsey. So sorry for that. Check it out. The blog-related talks were Ryan Welch's workshop for the blog development cookbook and Milana Cap's workshop around the interactivity API. And that last one is really, I didn't see the first one, but the last one I saw, and I learned more about the stores and the namespace and how you can interact from one block to the next and exchange data. So that's a really eye-opener. Ellen Bauer talked about how block themes speed up stores and sites in WooCommerce. And Robert O'Rourke asked and provides answers to, do you really need a custom block? And he walks you through how you can extend the block editor own blocks without writing your own custom blocks. But really, all the many great talks about the WordCamp Europe are online, and there are many for content creators, developers, entrepreneurs, educators, contributors as well. So check out the WordPress TV space with all the recordings. And that brings us to Gutenberg releases. We start out with Gutenberg 20.9. So 20.9 was released on May 28th. We were a little late, but I was traveling. And so do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I totally can. In terms
Cool.
of enhancements, the base styles have been updated to a modern SAS module system. And this was basically an obstacle to the Gutenberg project overall, migrating to the Dart SAS format in the future. So I love this kind of proactive unblocking that's happening, kind of moving away from some of the legacy import statements. Great work by Aki, per usual. But one of those just kind of foundational pieces to work on and make sure we have up to date just to unblock future things. This one, I actually was involved in this one previously, but a revert was done for how the edit site link works. When you're viewing your site, you're using a block theme and you see edit site, there's been a debate. Does it open the current template you're looking at, or does it open just the site editor and the homepage? And this has gone back and forth since the dawn of time. So this is a revert that previously had it update. It basically, whenever you hit edit site, it would bring you just to the general homepage of your site editor. Now it brings you to the current template. We got a bunch of feedback, and this is where I love the WordPress project and love the feedback that we get straight from folks. Whenever that was implemented in 6.8, people came back and said, hang on, what's going on? This is different. This is interrupting my workflow. This now takes 3 clicks for me to get to the current template I was looking at rather than bringing me there. I see the argument on both sides. Like there's definitely I think Rich showed a great video of himself with if you set a homepage or set a page as your homepage, what the experience of that looks like and how it can be confusing for end users. I have a feeling this is something that will continue to be a conversation and something that hopefully in the overarching issue, there was a discussion around having more granularity. So maybe edit site has a little drop down menu, kind of like an ad posting, where you can see it says like edit template, edit homepage, edit whatever, like having edit styles, like having something with more granularity. We'll see where that ends up, but this is, as of now, this experience has changed thanks to feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to jump into
The
the
only
next
thing
step?
that I wanted to say
Oh yeah,
about
please.
that was that there are actually at least one plugin out there who actually tried to implement a drop down with
Mm.
and kind of so you can check it out. I'm gonna do some research and share it in the show notes. Yeah. So and with the block library, we had a few changes that I wanted to talk about. One is that the search settings. So for the search block, there were a lot of settings in the toolbar. And it seems that most end users are kind of now trained to open up the sidebar for the settings. So developers have now moved some of the settings into the inspector to the right-hand side in the sidebar. So they're all together. I think that's just it's also for consistency of the interface. So I like that. And then there were for the first and the pre-formatted blocks, there were transformers missing, and they were added so people can not have to copy paste things and not delete a block and then add another block and copy paste the content, and they just can transform them from paragraph to verse and back and forth. Yeah. And now, Anne, we're coming to a topic that you know a lot about.
Hmm.
One is developers are enhancing content only editing experience. So what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the names on this are rough. So right now there's this idea of write mode. We need a new name because basically what it does, and this is something to zoom back out. Whenever I ran the full sighting outreach program, one of the things we repeatedly found is that dropping people straight into the site editor is pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of options open, there's a lot of tools open, and it's like, how do we add a simplified layer on top? That's what write mode is intending to do. So you can imagine a way to toggle between a simplified site editing version and then like boom, all the tools you want and having a way to switch in between those modes as you'd like. The underpinning technology used for that is content only. And what that does is it basically allows you to only edit the content. So it's a lot of fancy names, but this is, I'm trying to like set the scene. And so there are some updates, I think across both releases we're covering that improves different blocks and how they work with this option.
Mhm.
Because out of the box, not every block works with it, and something has to be done manually to basically add support for it. Now there's questions around specific blocks, like how much should be exposed, what should it look like, what should the experience be. I did some user testing at WordCamp US last year with like random people and recorded them going through this. And so there's a lot to be figured out there, but at the core, it's making way and taking steps towards a simplified site editing experience that folks can toggle on. You can imagine first time in the site editor, maybe you have that experience, and then if you run into something where you want to do more, you can have a quick way to just switch into like, show me all the tools. Kind of like the idea of when you're editing a presentation and like a slides for something and you want to go into the overall view of everything, you can do that. But otherwise you can just add text, move things around and have some like simplified
Mhm.
experience. So that's the context for that. Is covers the details block, the code block, the read more block, the post block. Like, there's a lot of blocks that were changed for this, and we'll continue to see this, I think, over the future releases. We'll see iteration on this area. So stay tuned.
Awesome, awesome. And I
Does that
also,
help explain?
it definitely helped me, yeah. And I
Good.
also helped me to understand why there all of a sudden were different things in the sidebar, because there are
Hmm.
the different icons on there. They're just identifying the places where you can edit the content, but not you're not having anything else in there. There are no display options or settings or something like that. So now I understand that. I also understand why plugin authors or agency, for instance, are quite excited about that, because they can curate the interface for their clients and kind of keep them out of the design and out of the have some more guardrails for them. And I
Hmm.
think that's because you can implement that through a plugin as well. So yeah, you can tap into the block JSON and say, put this into content only mode, because it's not a default thing. So yeah, I like it. The two components had some changes. One is that the color pick, the color picker now has visual cues when you copy a value. That's definitely great, the interaction there. So you don't have to wonder, did I copy it or did I not copy it? And then the snack bar, that's the term that developers use for the notifications that are bottom on your screen that come up when you do something. So if you save your post, you get the little note, click here to view it. And now this is also now available to open the links in new tabs, especially when you're a plugin author for your whatever plugin you do. You can also use the snack bar component, and then now you have the options to open links in a new tab, which is controversial, but yeah, just having the option in the components should be fine. It's controversial because you take over the freedom of the user to decide if they want it into a new tab or a new window or just right there, because all of a sudden they don't have the choice anymore. I think
Yeah,
that
I'm curious how
was,
that lands with folks. Yeah, that one I
yeah,
was surprised to see a bit, but yeah.
yeah, I think that was it for Gutenberg 20.9. Gutenberg 21 was just released this week. And do you want to take that next step there?
Yeah, let's dive into it. One of the main enhancements that I love to see is a refactor of the settings panel to use tools panel. So across a bunch of different blocks to zoom back out, there's different ways in which we display settings. And that can cause like those little inconsistencies really add up, especially when you're trying to do something in one block and then you do something in a different one and it looks slightly different or appears slightly differently. So the more we can have really smart, intuitive defaults where for any block, whenever you want to change something in one block, it's the same in another, the better. And especially just experience-wise and using the latest components, it's a really important thing to continue to iterate on. And so across a number of different blocks, the tools panel was implemented, and there's a lot of benefits. I don't know if you want to talk about the benefits of it, just because I feel like it'd be good to hear your perspective on
Yeah,
this too.
yeah, I would, because I was trying to figure out what is actually that the user gets out of it, and or the developers that use the blocks or extend those blocks. It's you get more control for the display. It's every time the same thing. That's what you mentioned, but it's also an easier mechanism for injecting additional settings into an existing group. I'm not quite sure if that's exposed for third party to for the extensibility, but that will definitely enable it. And then there is a visual parity between the styles that are already in the tools panel and those who don't. Yeah. So it's all the comments block. There's a tracking issue 67813 where you can kind of see all the progress on this project and also the list of the blocks that are handled with that. Yeah. So another change is that the separator has now, well, we talked about earlier, in the last episode about that the separator now has an additional, you can have now a div instead of an HR, so you can style it more. And with this release, that HTML element option is much more visible. It's now kind of moved up in the advanced section and it's not hidden anymore. So you can just toggle that and it can change the options there. I really like that. There was another block about that. I think, oh, the same thing happens with
Yeah.
a button block. They also move the HTML element section up so you can change between the element of a button or the element of a link, an anchor. So that's why I'm kind of hesitating about moving forward there. And the video block has now an additional option to set a track as default. And the track is actually the caption track. So you can select the default language there. And that's really helpful for anybody who has videos on the website and is not an English speaker or doesn't have the audience of an English speaker. So they could set the default, but they had to really specifically do it. And if there's not one uploaded, it was a little janky, so buggy for things. Yeah. So I think that was it on the enhancements.
Yeah, now we can jump into bug fixes if you want to. I can start with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
One of the first bug fixes, which I do want to call out, is from, I'm pretty sure, a new contributor. Yep, first time contributor, which is always really cool to
Awesome.
see. Super awesome. McCool, I think is the name. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. But this work basically fixed an issue where the pull quotes site element couldn't be styled or overridden by theme JSON due to basically conflicting CSS specificity. And so this is a nice win for block theme developers because they can now customize citation styles as they'd like. And it was some nice collaboration with Aki again to basically resolve this by reducing the specificity of the class selector so that theme JSON styles can actually work. I love when that actually works out. So yeah, keep the feedback coming, especially block theme authors around limitations you run into like this. It's always really helpful to start to continue to fix these
Hmm.
sorts of things. So I was excited to see that
Yeah.
bug fix there.
Definitely. It's also, if you want to read up about it and see how such a collaboration between veteran contributors and new
Hmm.
contributors actually happens, it's a great example where a lot of people have some opinions, yeah, but then you move forward and you get a nice PR merged that helps a lot of people. So
Hmm.
it's definitely a great way to contribute. I don't think I see any other bug fixes that I would want to talk about. So there's one on the component that's more an accessibility thing that the toolbar now adjusts the colors for dark mode support. And that's really cool because now you can also have the toolbar on the block in dark mode. For a lot of people that are around in dark mode. It's really cool. And then there is one documentation issue. I need to look at that. But it is that the block schema now also has a role field. And the role field is important for, let
It
me,
looks like it was added before in 6.7, like the role field
yeah.
was stabilized, but it wasn't exposed in the schema, which, might be good to follow up on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it happens with 6.7 it was, yeah. And that's for the content mode.
hmm Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's it. I think we're through that. We have Gutenberg 20.9 and 21, and we are at the last bit of our show, and that is what's in active development or discussed. And with a few more talks on a flagship WordCamps, the interactivity becomes more and more popular. And the team worked in the last few months with the WordPress team together to implement additional features. And those are now, with the start of contributing again, backported to the Gutenberg repo. There are many issues, and you can follow along on the tracking issue, backport WooCommerce interactivity API improvements. That's tracking issue 70372. It's like a phone number. Yeah, there are actually quite a few issues in there. I'm really excited about that because there is a new feature that's the interactivity router that lets you organize your pages better or the links between blocks and also, what was the other one?
I know there's
Um,
some client-side navigation
yes.
work that's been
Yeah.
done too, which
Yeah.
I'm really excited about. I've been using that in the Block Museum for a while now,
Uh-huh.
and it just makes it super quick to switch between pages and to have it be pulled in and hopefully stabilized soon will be
Yeah.
really, really neat to have as an option. I have loved having it on the Block Museum. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That was also something that was in experiment, I think, in
mhm.
Gutenberg for the query block. Yeah. So
Yes.
yes. So okay, so now we're kind of moving forward on that, and I'm quite excited about that, and I hope you, dear listeners, are too. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about on the show?
Nothing on my mind. I mean, I would love this is a selfish ask, but as I get back into the project, mainly coming back from sabbatical, I would love to know what sort of hallway hangouts or conversations folks want to have. I'm really keen on making sure we continue to have a lot of those community-wide conversations, not just at WordCamps, because not everyone can join those. And like that's some inspiration I took from the COVID times is to continue the conversation. So if folks have ideas or suggestions, I'm at Anzazu and WordPress.org Slack. My site's nomad.blog. You can contact me there. I'm not on X or any of the social media, so you cannot find me. But yeah, I just I'm very curious to see what's on people's minds, what feels like hot topics to discuss, and what feels important to hear more about, and how we can facilitate sharing that knowledge and inviting more folks into the work. That's the only other thing I'd
Yeah.
love to add.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, and as always, the show notes will be published on gutenbergtimes.com/podcast. This is episode 118. And if you have questions or suggestions or news you want us to include, send them to changelog@gutenbergtimes.com. That's changelog@gutenbergtimes.com. And this is the end of this show. Thank you all for listening. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy, busy schedule and be on the show with me. And thank you all for listening. And until the next time, bye bye.
Bye.